I wasn't involved in the very first season. It was a club team when I was a freshman, and it went on pretty much without my knowledge. But then the second year, I got involved, and it was very much a club. I mean, everybody was wearing these green and gray reversible phys ed shirts that we used to have with the green phys ed shorts, and eventually they assigned a graduate student, Paul McLaughlin, who is pretty much a baseball guy, to oversee the club, and actually the first season of varsity in addition. He had the team. After that, Paul left, and Les Hooker, who was the AD, was pretty much about to drop soccer, and Coach Agee stepped up. Coaches, coached 5 or 6 sports here, and he pretty much stepped in and said, "I'll do it, just to keep the thing going. I think it's a good activity." And Joe did it for a couple of years, and he was actually my first soccer coach. There have only been 5 coaches, and I mentioned Paul McLaughlin and Joe Agee, and then Jim Carpenter, who was my lacrosse coach, had the team for a year or 2, and I had come back to help him coach lacrosse as a grad assistant, and so I said, sure, I'll help you coach soccer too. And that was probably that one decision, that moment, probably more important in my professional career than any decision I've ever made, just to say, yeah, I'll be your assistant. And then he left, and I took over both teams. In the late 60s, we had a group of guys come here who were pretty good high school soccer players, and then we had a guy named Phil Essman transferred in from Denison, who was a very good soccer player, who in 1970 became Virginia State Player of the Year. He was our center forward and leading scorer. And we had a goalkeeper named David Fabian, who was our first All-South performer. And that group of guys in 1970 went undefeated regular season, 9-0-2, and lost in the finals in both the Southern Conference and the Virginia State Championship. Lost to Davidson in the Southern Conference, Virginia in the State Championship, and that was our first really good team. In the mid-70s, we were approached by some people from Northern Virginia, from the Annandale Boys Club, who had won a national junior club championship, and they said, we've got a lot of really good players coming out of Virginia, and we want to go to, and they want to go to really good school and play soccer, so we want to help you with your soccer program. And they basically pushed a lot of kids towards us, and these were the players in the early years, the Kip Germains, the Chris Davins, Ben Glass, Robbie Olson, Mark Gardner. These were some of the top players that we had in the late 70s, when we basically won 3 state championships, and that fed into the 1980 team, which was the first team that went to the NCAA tournament here. And we had half a dozen very good Canadian players come here. Bill Watson, Graham Sykes, John McManus, who's still our all-time single-season scorer. Steve Gallup was a under-20 national team goalkeeper from Canada. Rich Miranda, who later became the soccer coach at Navy. And Scott Bell, who played professional soccer after he left here and was one of our all-time leading scorers. So we had the Northern Virginia connection with Annandale. Now there's players from all over the state, western part of Virginia, Richmond area, Virginia Beach, all over. But back then, Northern Virginia was king, and then Canada. So those were the 2 areas that really built this program. So Jon walked on here, basically. We knew he was coming, and I think his expectation was probably that he was going to be on the team right away. But that was a very good team. He came in his freshman year, was the fall of 1980, and that was the year that we had to run to the Final 8. We had a lot of players back, so we only put a few freshmen on the team, and Jon was relegated to what was then called the club team, was kind of functioning as a JV. And fortunately, he didn't transfer out or get upset or anything. Came out in the spring and ended up really being a starter and playing a lot for the next 3 years. But he jokes about it now in the book that we did, and he'll Obviously, he looks for any opportunity to get a laugh, but he ended up being a starter in '83 for the team that went to the NCAA tournament for the second time. He's a funny guy. You never think somebody is so funny that they're going to be one of the most heralded funny men. But you could see back then that he had the wit and intelligence that he has now. Very, very quick-witted, would make people laugh all the time. We had a very circuitous route back to Dillard. We started JBT, which is now called Dillard. Went from there to the intramural field, then to Cary Field, now Zabel Stadium. From there, they built Bush Field, and we went to turf on campus. And then we got that field out at Dillard again, which was great. And then the Martin family came along and enabled us to really build a brick and mortar facility there. We've had some fantastic crowds for NCAA games and playing some of the bigger teams on our schedule. And it's a very intimate atmosphere. Every seat is a great seat. The amenities are tremendous. I think it's a phenomenal facility. The U-Crops were responsible for that. They gave the main gift. They wanted it named after John and I. I mean, it was just told Jim U-Crop it's the best gift I think I ever got. There's no way that I could have paid for that honor. And it's wonderful for my kids and whoever comes after me to know that there's a legacy like that. Chris was a very strong player for William & Mary. He had come from an environment in Annandale, same thing, Annandale Boys Club, where they had won a national under-19 championship. So he had that, expectation that he could be a champion. And so you could kind of tell that he would be the type of person that would go into coaching and be very good at coaching. And of course, he played and then was my assistant for quite a while, and then moved right into the head coach position.
It'll be an exciting year for us, I think, and we'll have some things planned around the 50th anniversary that I think will allow us to reflect and not just on William & Mary men's soccer, but on soccer in the U.S. and where the game has gone, where college soccer has gone since those early days. To be able to honor people like Al Albert, who was such a big and continues to be such a big part of William & Mary men's soccer. I think he's been here for all 50 years pretty much, and to be able to kind of reflect on some of the great seasons, great teams, and great individuals, and for each of us to kind of take into account our place in the history of William & Mary men's soccer will be fun for sure.
Alumni come back in good numbers for homecoming, for other events we do in the fall like Craypole Fest. They come back in the spring for our spring soccer weekend, which very often is in conjunction with the Hall of Fame if we have a men's soccer player being put in the Hall of Fame or a team. So it's a real good community that we try to make players feel that even when they're finished, that we want them to come back and be part of that community. I really like where we are in soccer and in athletics, just with the true student athlete. I think it's possible in the future that soccer will be like a football, and will be in a category with the Ivy Leagues and other schools that have those true student athletes. But I think from our standpoint, there's always going to want to be very good players that want to come to a school like this, have an opportunity to get some kind of scholarship to play the sport that they want to play, love to play, get a great education in a great facility. And with the field, with the locker room renovation, the coach we have, I think it's an opportunity for anybody to come and pretty much be whatever they want to be.